evening. Thank you for being here. Just wanted to do a brief introduction of TiE. TiE is world's largest entrepreneurial organization with 62 chapters in 17 countries. Founded in Silicon Valley, and it has spread since then. I would like to invite Suren. As you all know that this is our 25th year. So we are celebrating this 25th year by having someone like Suren and our keynote speaker. Suren, please.
It's really a great pleasure for me to introduce our distinguished speaker today. Now, all of you have seen his impressive profile, which gets mailed out, so I'm not going to repeat the information that you've already seen. So I might share with you just a few items which may not be widely known. Suhas Patil is a very distinguished career, and there are two things that stand out about Suhas, which are fairly unique. And by the way, before I introduce, this is the first time I've seen Suhas at a TiE event without his camera. For those of you who are, oh, he does have it. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, TiE never had to spend a penny on photographer. Suhas is better than any professional photographer. And he has probably bigger library of TiE events, which he has cataloged, than anyone I know. So as I mentioned, there are two things which are fairly unique. One, his career transcends in three different ways. He has had an outstanding education with undergraduate from IIT Kharagpur and PhD from MIT. He was a tremendous faculty member in two institutions of higher education, and then a very successful track record in private sector. Suhas broke the glass ceiling in 1984 when he founded Cirrus Logic, known for complex chip designs, which became an incredibly successful company under his leadership. But the second thing that a lot of entrepreneurs would envy, in addition to his significant contributions, he comes from a family of distinguished individuals. His wife, Patil, is an entrepreneur who has worked with Suhas in a number of ventures and have started several companies on her own. Now, it's very difficult for Suhas and Jayashree because they get introduced as parents of DJ Patil, their famous son. He's the Chief Data Science Officer of the United States. As everyone knows how important data and analytics have become, his appointment as the first Data Science Officer of the United States is a recognition of its importance, but specifically his expertise. Now, Naresh just mentioned Suhas as the founder of TiE. And I should tell you that my involvement was limited to Southern California and San Diego, as well as 4.5 years as a global CEO. But I can tell you that a lot of individuals are mentioned as co-founders of TiE, and frankly, they have all contributed greatly in development of this entity. But in my opinion, based on my personal knowledge, Suhas is the person who had the vision and provided timely leadership which made growth of TiE possible. Now there are a few other things that I should mention which are germane to our chapter. In 1997, when the decision was made to expand TiE outside Silicon Valley, and from 1993 to 1997, TiE was only in Silicon Valley, a group of persons joined hands with Safi Qureshi, who was our leader at that particular juncture. And those of you who do not know Safi Qureshi, he ran a company called AST. And AST stood for Albert, Safi, and Tom. Albert and Tom were Chinese immigrants. Safi was Pakistani immigrants. And they started AST in their garage, and it went on to become a $2.5 billion PC company, which was then acquired by Samsung. So Suhas worked with us during the formative stages and came for the first event in Los Angeles. But when we decided that San Diego was ready for a TiE chapter, and we began planning in early 2000, with the inaugural event in June of 2000, we had about 200 plus persons in the audience, and we had a large contingent from Silicon Valley, led by Suhas Patil, who came and gave us his blessings. 5 years later, in June 2005, we had Professor C.K. Prahlad as our guiding light. And together we decided that we're going to have a big celebration for the success that we had enjoyed. So we invited some of our stalwarts that included both Suhas and Deshpande. Again, Suhas was very kind to come to San Diego and help in the celebration. Now here we are. Our TiE chapter in San Diego is 16 years old. And we are delighted to have Suhas join us for the third time. So for this milestone, Suhas, thank you so much for coming, and please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Suhas Patil.
I want to make sure folks in the back can hear me properly, because my voice needs assistance of the electronics to be heard. I become over time more soft-spoken. Not because that's how I want to be, but that's what I have become. Okay. Well, I was invited, to come here. Okay. Well, thanks to your current president, okay, Naresh Soni. And I said, sure, I haven't been to San Diego in a while. So we fixed up a date, and it has been great coming back and reconnecting with people. Okay? Now I gave a lot of choice as to what I should speak about. Okay? And the choice was made by the chapter. Okay? They wanted to hear story of how to go from lab to $1 billion, how to build a lasting company. Okay. Now it is actually true. Cirrus Logic is $1.2 billion company. How did it happen? And it's still around. It's actually started in 1981, and not 1984, as all the published materials say. Okay. Now, I can of course chronicle the story, okay? But that would not be interesting enough. Okay? As I have become older, especially after becoming grandfather of 7 grandchildren, I have become much better storyteller. So I'm here to tell you the story. Of course, the story would be more meaningful if I could, give you some insights into early life of company, later on, both, what made the company successful and what nearly, sort of brought us to the brink of failing, how we got out of that. There's the story. So when I, have an opportunity to speak with people, I set myself goal. My goal is to leave you with one good idea, one learning point that you can carry with you. If I have done that with every one of you, I have succeeded. If I leave you with two, then I'm doing very good. Okay? And if I can leave you with three, I have hit a hat trick. That's the Indian term. If you have to know cricket for that. So anyway, the idea is not just a story, but insights, narrated in the context of the story. Story is interesting in itself, but the ideas is what you need to pick up. Okay? And I am going to, of course, tell you a little more about the earlier life of the company. I would like a tangent. When must I end?
7:45.
7:45. Okay. Because if I get talking, we can be here all night. Okay? And I used to be a professor, right? Which means I can talk. Right. So anyway, I tried to sort of reflect, and since it is storytelling, there's no need for a projector. There's no need for me to read the slides. That's not storytelling. Okay? Storytelling is about insight and to be told in interesting ways. Okay? So you say, okay, did I come from a business family? No. Like most of successful entrepreneurs here, far from it. Okay? My grandfather was a farmer, a teacher, and a lawyer, all three at the same time in a small, town, so that he could make his ends meet. Okay? My father was an engineer who really worked as an accountant, cost accountant for TiE. We didn't have no money, and went through the war. So family is not one of those houses, okay? And yet, I started a company. How does it happen? Okay? Inspiration. First is inspiration. Even though you may or may not do, it's nice to be inspired. Okay? So my first impression, and the fact that some things like company can be built from nowhere, came from, Tata Steel and Company, where my father worked. And that place was nothing but jungle 50 years before I was born. Okay? And everything there, okay, my school, the roads, the hospital, everything was built by this company, including the dam and the supply of the water and everything. And as a child, I used to marvel. The tigers were here, the elephants were, and honest to goodness, if you walked out into the forest, you would encounter those things. And we used to have a few times they visited the town. Okay? So the jungle gets transformed into a place for so many kids to go to school and my father to work. And, it was kind of magical, and we used to celebrate that on 3rd of March, every year. So what I picked up from that, the impression of wow, and the fact that such things can be done. It's not that towns have to be like Delhi, one doesn't know when it got started, right? These are all fresh things. Provided employment for 40,000 people. Pretty impressive, at least for a little guy. I'm still impressed, even though I'm an older guy. Right? So with that carrying, you just have to never know when that thing influences you. So first thing is to be inspired. The next one is to kind of, as you go over time, without even knowing, I was preparing, okay? Which I only recognize afterwards. Right? So at MIT, I had to take, for my doctoral work, I had to take a minor. And so I looked at this, I looked at that, and I took management as a minor. I said, I'd like to learn about this, what is accounting, how to read balance sheet, okay? Right? Maybe one day, I will have a company and I'll need to know that, okay? This happened so much before. As it turns out, then, after my getting my doctorate, I got invited to join faculty, which I said, wow, okay, how many people, get a chance to become a professor at MIT? And then good work was going on in Project Mac, this really from where all this Ethernet came and multics, and much of the foundation of how the computers are designed today came from the computer as a utility. We were speaking at that time. And so that's how I got started. Now, we, as professors, we try to do things that are useful. Okay? At least we formulate things that we can contemplate could make a difference in the industry. So in my case, I had done software design, and I, saw how software people were working, and I saw how hardware people were putting hardware together, and I noticed that if you wrote software and you kind of read it and made sure made no mistakes, you expected it to run. Otherwise, you said the computer is defective. The hardware people put it together, and they had no qualms about taking out oscilloscope and saying, let's debug it. I said, what's wrong? I want to design hardware in such a way that it will be correct by construction. So that was the sort of goal I undertook to solve, both in my doctoral work and after getting my appointment. And then soon realized that things are not going to be built with individual transistors, because the semiconductor technology had gone through where you could build ICs, even though they were small, that unless the methods I developed translated and made use of semiconductor, you could do best theory, but it will not get used. Okay? So it had to be planar, because the semiconductor is a surface thing, it's a flat, and I finally did come up with a solution. And why I am sharing with you, I am giving you the long tail of some of these things. Okay? So that became my pursuit of showing that this actually works. And that is what brought me to Utah. Because Utah, through some miracle of miracles, had been donated a semiconductor fabrication lab, okay, to do advanced work by a company known as General Instrument Corporation. They actually gave, and then they gave a contract. That was the finance department had suggested that they do that, because whatever they think. But as far as the university was concerned, here it is, brand new fab, okay? 5 micron, those days was pretty advanced, and they were going to do NMOS, which was also very advanced, And I was doing my professorial stuff. I had my prototype of my solution, which is all in a suitcase, and come and show how this clockless design would work, and my next goal was to actually implement. And they said, well, you don't have such a facility in MIT, and we have it all for you. All you have to do is quit and come here and lead the group, okay, and build the VLSI Center. And it was just an offer too hard to refuse. And they said, besides that, you are staying in an apartment, here you can buy a house, okay, and you can settle down. You got a kid, and I think this is a better place for it. So I took that offer, went there and built the VLSI program. And that was 1975. Okay? And then, because I had this connection to General Instrument, they also supported me in other ways, including added funding to my National Science Foundation, plus interaction with, they had another lab which actually, is in Phoenix, on Chandler. So that was very good. So resources, you need resources. And by, 1978, 79, all the theory had been proven, some samples made, and now I had a situation where in the back of my mind I'm thinking, can it be turned into a business? General Instrument was thinking differently. They said, we need system on a chip. We need the whole digital stuff on a chip and done in a timely manner. Because they had business like set-top box, Gerald Instrument. Gerald division of General Instrument. Okay? And nobody in those days could do the whole system on a chip. And this maverick of a professor, using a silicon compiler or method, whatever you call, he said, oh, no problem. I design it on a paper. You give me information and I will design it for you. Okay? So, and they funded, so they sort of believed in me. So they said, well, but you can't do this thing with just university stuff. You really need to have the software and you need this thing. Do something. Quit, come join us, or let's do something. That was my golden opportunity, So in a discussion, and I said, I can quit university, they will give me leave, but I can't really leave town right now. Okay? So we agreed where I will open my shop in the research park of the university next to Evans and Sutherland, who were already there. And that they would give me a contract. So of course, this young guy, 35 years, I didn't have a beard at that time. Okay? I still look very boyish, okay, with a big round face. But nevertheless, okay, I said to them, I have no money. Okay? Right? I go to VCs, I don't think I'm going to get any money. Okay? And I'm very much interested in solving your problem. Okay? So I need equipment, I need contract, and I need working capital. The rest I will do. Okay? And because I had a good relationship, and I had if you're going to deal with a $1 billion company, you absolutely need an inside champion. You need godfather in there. So the person who had supported me as a senior VP, he said, okay, we'll talk with the CEO and I'll arrange a meeting, and if he likes you, okay, then we will have a proposal. So I met him and I passed. Okay, he said thumbs up. Okay, I think this guy is, maybe he can do things. Okay, and then the organization knows how to take it forward. And the thing is, university wouldn't give me leave. So once you are into this path, you're going to face some tough decision making. For me, that was my only source of, safety net. If company fails, I can go back to teaching. Okay, no leave. So I called my mentor, or my godfather. I said, I have a tough decision to make. Okay? If I don't quit now, they're going to assign me to teach, next quarter, and I'm locked in for at least that quarter. So he calmly says, go ahead, quit. Now, I have nothing, I have no contract, we just kind of saw this word level. And I said, okay, I will do it. But it turns out that's how I got, it took 21 days to do the contract, which I thought was until eternity. But as things go, trying to get a contract, 2-year contract that's like this, which other people would look at it, what do you mean? They gave you the $250,000 of max machines and they gave you working capital? Well, that's possible because I had a champion, there, right? And I was going to solve their problem. Okay, but they took a risk with me. Okay? Now, so the first lesson, what kind of financing did I do? Not Series A, not angel financing, nothing. It was upfront customer financing. The customer gave me money in anticipation of product a couple of years down the road, which would make very big difference, and was ready to take a risk with me. Right? So when those days there were no other options for people like me, so the company put me in a business, so to say. That was wonderful. We did do, chips after developing. So I come to, so when the, contract came, I was so happy. I said, okay, we're all set, 2 years, we're going to build the tools, and we'll be in the business. Okay? We're covered financially. Wrong. Okay? That was the first real mistake. I was in good shape at that moment, but I was not thinking like a honest to goodness entrepreneur. Is worrying about what's going to happen 2 years from now, or if circumstances change. Okay? Because at that time, with that contract, I could have now gone to Silicon Valley and met some of the VCs. And I said, I got a $1 billion company backing me. They haven't gone to anybody else. You can call them. Senior VP will take the call. Right? I want to get set up for success. So I'd like you to get involved. What does involvement mean? They put in money. Once they are in, you get the guidance, you get all the advantages. So we didn't do that. We just got, working, put our heads down, build the system, do whatever General Instrument, almost behaving like a division of General Instrument. But then the game market went down, Atari was having difficulties, so revenues dropped. So 1.5 years later, the contract went away. Or they said, well, we're going to have to reduce, everybody shares in the pain. And then I had to, then they said, okay, you can do chips for us. But it could not earn enough money. So I then sort of suddenly, had to wake up and raise angel money. And now we were hand to mouth in terms of not knowing where the paycheck would come and so on. And but we did get one of those deals which we ultimately wanted to do as a company. We got a deal where I would get paid $100,000 to design a chip to go in box, which later on was called Starcom 5 or Gerald. Okay? One of the most successful set-top boxes. However, not only it was NRE, but I would get to supply them with, 300,000 chips, $4. Not 5 cents more, not 5 cents less. If they gave me less, I was going to walk. If I asked for more, they were not going to give me a deal. So I'm not a salesperson, but boy, I had to be one because Where would otherwise money come? So anyway, we did design it. We started on Labor Day, finished in Thanksgiving Day. I actually worked on Labor Day because we had just gotten the contract, so no Labor Day holiday. Okay? Work begins today. Okay? That's a record time for that kind of a thing. And then, however, the VCs who were talking with me from Silicon Valley really were only talking. I didn't get funding that is needed in order to be a manufacturer using Fabless model. And by the way, my fab for this was another General Instruments division, which was the semiconductor division. Now, why do you think a semiconductor division would sell me wafers at fixed cost so that I can sell finished goods to another division? Can you guess?
They don't talk to each other? They didn't talk to each other?
No, they talked, except the semiconductor division's complaint was, my sister division, I solved their problem, they never pay me.
Oh.
At least when you do that service, I get paid for the wafers. And you collect money from them, okay? I mean, this is sort of, you have to learn the dynamics, but I found that very funny, okay? However, here it is. Grand plans, grand things, design is ready, they're ready to fabricate for fixed price, but I have no money. I am hand to mouth, month to month, with angel help, okay? Relative, which is, kind of tough money to take. So, I finally, had this kind of decision moment. So in a company, in a startup, you have sometimes to be very strategic in your decision. Can't get caught up in emotion. Okay? So I did what was unthinkable. I called up the semiconductor division. I said, I will give you the design that your sister division needs. It's already done. Instead of you fabbing it for me, you can do it for yourself. Would you be kind enough to take it in silver platter? Okay. Well, they were happy to do that. But then I had my crown jewels I had just given away, which could have earned me $1.2 million revenue, made the company. Well, the good thing is, that's probably the smartest decision I ever made to save the company. Yeah, I had to survive for a while, okay? That chip got processed, and because of my approach and attitude, I did the primary design, my student from MIT did the verification, we were a terrific team of about 7 people. That thing worked, first time. It came back in January, and there are little stories, dramatic story, but we'll lose too much time. But interesting, it worked. Now, that still didn't bring revenue to me. However, now I was much more credible to the Silicon Valley guys. So we moved over the Christmas holidays to Silicon Valley, and I had real evidence. Okay? And it went into the set-top box. I mean, that's better proof than all the foils you can prepare and all wonderful talks you can give. That's real evidence. And I think that finally led, with help of some of my students, to be introduced to a VC who was ready to take a risk with me. Now, the typical Silicon Valley VCs did not come forward. And That's an interesting lesson. I showed it to TV, the people, they were very polite, he's a professor coming, doing things, he's got an interesting story. They listen and they say, it's very revolutionary. I didn't want to hear that word. Revolutionary means very risky. We don't take that kind of risk. It's a whole lot. Okay? But what the professor is supposed to do, do advanced stuff. And some of the advanced stuff which breaks away from how the rest of the industry was doing, it's risky. On top of it, I said, I'm not going to build the factory. I'm still going to supply the chips. I'm going to use somebody else's. I already have one lined up. I said, I bet I can line up the other guys too. Right? So that was a Fabless model. On top of it, a new way of designing. It looks strange, and they called some engineer. They said, wow, we don't know. I think this is good for prototyping. It's very quick. But those chips will never, compete. And laid out in business such as set-top boxes or any high volume, this is kind of charge. They're just professors. Okay? Well, the industry did not know. So by the way, a little bit later, as we got established, we went back and had counted on my customer wanting upgrade, wanting more features, performance, functionality. And we are the only ones who knew how to do, not the semiconductor division. They had the tools, but tools don't do it. It's the knowledge of how to, what's inside. So we made a new deal. It says, for the next generation, okay, now we're not going to charge you anything, okay, we set the price. They said, same price, no increase. I said, fine. Okay, what else? But we need a purchase order. Okay, and we got it. Okay. That thing, of course, we already knew, so we turned it around in just literally a month and a half. And now I had other semiconductor people that joined, Mike Hackwood, who had tremendous experience. Ran half of Signaltex, they had agreed to be a CEO, I had a manufacturing, VP, all kinds of things, right? So we had no problem, making it. Again, it worked the first time as my expectation and demand was of my engineers. Okay. That chip, when it came out, went into production, earned our first $1 million in the quarter. So the VC said, now you are a company. Until now, it was a nice experiment. Okay? So that's the story of, how the decisions play an important role. Okay? And I tell you, my decision to go from Salt Lake City to Silicon Valley, and what to do as I was deciding to give away this, here's the sort of thought I had, which turns out to be very key. It was key in the company. I said, good, capable people don't distribute themselves uniformly over the companies and universities. They congregate. They come together into centers of excellence. Okay? So I said, if by some magic, and I don't know whether I'll ever be able to do this, if I can bring together absolutely top people together, and I have a lineup that's stronger than anybody else, okay, then it is really like a game of football. The strongest lineup has the odds of success. So this was literally my strategy. Okay? Simple. I said, that's my strategy. Now, how can I talk people into joining me? Okay? Strategy is nice, but how do you execute? Okay? So I said, okay, well, we cannot do that in Salt Lake City. We got to go to Silicon Valley. And then once I had engagement, most VCs said no, okay? And by the way, your earlier students are very helpful. So one of them joined, who had been funded earlier by New York-based VC, Nazem and Company, Fred Nazem, who was himself a nuclear scientist, who came and looked at me, and he says, yeah, the world doesn't believe, but Suhas might be right. So I'm going to help him. I'm going to help him so you don't have to worry month to month. Plus, we're going to get organized so that you can do funding. And Suhas, I think we need to build strength. I said, I already figured that out. So let's go find who can join me. And I was trying to do everything. You can't do everything. Because, well, I didn't have money to hire people, or people wouldn't join me. But with the VCs, then I was able to talk with top people, and I like, with whom we shared a lot of values and how we do things and so on. Now, he was running half of Signetics, 2,300 people reporting to him. I only had, the whole team was 7 people. Okay? And so I talked him into helping me first, mentor. Okay? And he was very curious about my technology, for his own use. Okay? So he started helping. Pretty soon, there was a day, and he would come after office hours. We're on the board, he's looking at the business plan, trying to refine it. And he turns to me and says, Suhas, it's all nice talk. Can you really design these things? I said, yes. Then I asked him, can you really sell? And he says, if you can design it, I bet you I can sell. And I said, then we have a company. We'll design it, you sell. What else do we need? Everybody else will come. So that was the kind of meeting of the mind. And 6 months later on, he quit his job. And when he quit, he was told he didn't know that he was going to be the next CEO of Signetics. That was hard. But his mind was set, and so he joined. So with that, of course, meanwhile, we got other very top people to join us. And we had a team. So we could run faster, and more smartly than other companies. Okay? And they were busy with their own stuff. And we were chosen by that time to do all the parts that are needed to do the PC so that it can be condensed into fewer chips. And we had this set-top box thing going anyway. So that's how the beginning occurred. Okay? Now, the other important thing was, I had sort of, my value system. Okay? I had the coaching from my General Instrument thing, and I shared some of them, and then Hackman brought with him, and I'm going to share that also with you. From Utah, when I came, I had my mentor in General Instrument told me how to run a company as a starter. Okay? And first thing he said, you have to control your costs. And how you do that? By controlling how many people you hire. Because what's the point in hiring somebody if you can't support them fully? Okay? And so that's how you control the costs. And then he put a discipline in me that I would write a report, all of us would write a report every month, and we're going to say what we're going to do next month. And he said, never be without statement of goals or action items. Okay? So though that discipline was already there, and we had done very good execution, our difficulty was we couldn't get money. Okay? when Hackworth, sort of conceptually said we're going to come, at that point, of course, he also didn't come in a timely enough manner. But by that time, we had enough reputation with the VCs. The Nazar and Company led a financing, before that. Then he joins. Okay? But with him, what does he bring? I mean, our values were very similar. His articulation was better. He had more experience. He run bigger groups. So what he brought to the party was said, okay, so as we're going to increase the team. The company has to be founded with solid, foundation of values, and we need to write them down. We also need to think about it. So one of the core values, which I first time heard from anyone, was intellectual honesty. This is that's our value, and we adhere to it in every action. Now, it's very easy to be honest. Even some people say, how is that? No, all you have to do is not lie, and you're automatically honest. Okay? Now, to be intellectually honest means you have to be honest in your thought. What does that mean? How does it enter into world of business? You see, we get driven to do things, okay? And we stretch. A salesperson tries to make the goals. He's stretching. Engineering says, oh, I can do it in this time. But back of your mind, back of the mind kind of says, are you sure? Okay? Are you not stretching? And if your back of mind is telling you one thing and your mouth is uttering something different, you're not intellectually honest. Intellectual honesty means your actions are consistent with your conscious or the inner voice of mind. You don't pretend. Okay? And so if you will deviate, but soon you say, oh, that's not quite correct. And so if the whole organization buys into this concept, very quickly, if the sales guy is starting to promise very quickly, he corrects himself. If not, somebody says, are you being intellectually honest? Go think about it and come back. So it gave both a culture as well as a language and a way of, without getting, shouting at each other, to work very well with other. And then the other values, come on top of it, like, respect for people, you criticize action, not the person, all those standard, management disciplines. But this intellectual honesty is a very good governing mechanism to, straighten your path and not make big mistakes. So that was a huge learning for me, as well as, of course, benefit for the company. Now there's a little bit of, we are at TiE meeting, a tidbit of history. When TiE started, we started by just meeting. After deciding we together figure out what to do, every month we would meet on third Tuesday. Okay? However, just meeting, having dinner and going away kind of gets a little boring after a while, even though we're thinking of deep thoughts. So the way to, and we used to have trouble getting even 12 people in the room. So in order to make it more interesting, after doing this thing about 3 months or so, they decided, we'll have somebody give a talk. And of course, I had a public company, very good profile, okay? So AJ Patil used to run and say, Suhas, would you give a talk? And I left to me to decide what to talk about. That whole talk was about intellectual honesty and how it, it figures out in the startup and which is full of risk and the sparks fly, right? Now, interesting enough, I mean, so because I had myself learned and I wanted to share with people, right? People still remember, whoever was there said, I remember, I never forgot. But of course, there were only 12 people. So not very many people were there. But it turns out it was a very good governing. Then it comes down to skill, and we had some techniques of how to do fabless. The tools were phenomenal. And before, I couldn't give away the tool as a professor. I went everywhere, Intel, DEC, you name it. As a professor, what does professor do? Said, I have technology, I have student, I am available as a consultant. Okay? All you have to do is decide to adopt it, and I will help you adopt it. But when the technology actually makes a break from the conventional thinking, is much harder to give and transfer to the industry. Okay? It requires too much of a jump. If I improve the current processes by 30%, the adoption will be simple. I was saying, hey, no, you don't need to do a circuit diagram. You just write the zeros and ones. And before we used to do it on paper, but now you got the system, and you don't have to be a semiconductor designer. You don't have to know transistors, and you're going to design a chip. If you know how to do logic, and by the way, software guys are good for designing chips too. I mean, this sounds strange, right? So it turns out that we had some very interesting things, and our approach to business was fabulous. Okay? Now I'm going to share with you. Okay, so Hackworth's skill, he made sure we always had funding, plus he was phenomenal. And one of the other things is, sometimes, so most of our chip worked fully well first time. We never did second time base layer, but we had to fix the metal layer many times. Okay? So there was a situation where there was immense pressure because the material is all staged and the customer is screaming and the engineer is trying to release the new mass for the layers, and engineering does not feel comfortable. And of course I'm working with the engineers trying to figure out what the issues are, what the risks are, why are we not comfortable, what we have not checked. And my engineers would shake head. Okay? So I said, okay, well, it will be pretty difficult talk that our CEO has to do with the customer, because he's not going to get stuff in time that has been promised, but we cannot send out based on our assessment. So we are going to set up a meeting, and we're basically almost like walking into the CEO's office. Okay? It's like saying, Mike, we need to talk with you. Okay? Of course, I had prepped, I said we need to give status report, we got issues. So he was prepared, and so he listened. Okay? And, he asked each one of us in there, including me. I said, Mike, we're not ready. Okay? No hassle. He had his input. He said, okay, I will face the customer. You guys go verify. It was about verification. Go verify, make sure it works. How long it takes? So we gave him a week. All right, I'll buy you a week. Okay. So now the interesting thing is, of course, what we send out later worked perfectly. So while initially customers are unhappy, but if it had not worked, we would have lost 3 months. It would have been just very bad, right? So the quality of the CEO, how to listen. Okay? At some point, he has to push, otherwise things don't get done. When to kind of, hold the feet to fire, and when to listen carefully, he has to judge who bullshits and who tells the truth and do certain homework, and he did that very well. Okay? Well, now we're growing very fast, fastest growing company. And what's the time? Well, we are past the time, almost. Okay. So I'll tell you one more thing, and then later, company does other things. The later thing was, so we are very successful. And by the middle of 90s, 95 or so, we're already $1 billion company. Extremely fast growth, but half of it is in graphics. And the graphics team, which had not only our team, but we acquired a company, those guys, kind of didn't appreciate our internal tools. They were using, place and route tools and so on. They would not want to change. And they were trying to squeeze every area, the custom design portions of it. I said, listen, you design with our tools, your die size will be the same and your yield will be more. We've proven with set-top box. I was making 50% gross margin in set-top box, and the semiconductor division thought we were losing money. That's because we had such good yields, which we didn't tell anybody. So they sort of pressured President to go make fab deals. And we were fabless until that time. So we did with IBM and AT&T. Those big companies don't do deals like that, but they did with us. Okay? And then later in '95, there was a downturn in the industry. And orders that were on the books started going away because we were such big supplier of graphics and hard drive, chip and so on. Right? And the fabs are fixed; they need feeding, fixed amount of money, regardless of whether you make any wafers or not. So they became a burden. Okay? It caused a lot, almost killed the company. But there was enough strength to survive through that. The lesson from that was people who come in, or even those who are there, forget what and how you succeeded. And I'm not one of those things where pound the table. I mean, we will tell, as chairman, telling these guys, this is going to get you in trouble. My whole team was telling, guys, we're fabless. You can't do this thing, right? When the downturn came, okay, before that, because they were growing so fast, they had to port this thing to different fabs. By the time, there were 12 different fabs supplying to us. Okay? In their case, every fab port required engineering intervention. The ones that were designed with the tools I had developed, Silicon Compiler, I just recompiled to the fab. 30 days to characterize the fab. It became so good that the manufacturing people were doing porting without telling us, engineers. I said, come on, we can at least simulate and give you support. They said, no, it's going to work. Okay? And then from that to where you have to put engineering. So all engineering got consumed in porting products, and they fell behind on the follow-on product. And NVIDIA was a startup company at that time, right? And see how big they become. So we were number one before that. And if you hadn't, that screwed up there because there are times when, because you have seen enough, you have understanding, somebody doesn't fall in line, you need to show them the door. No matter how much money they're making for the company. And they were all, that was being run by the company we acquired. All our graphics got merged. But in hindsight, if, the head of the division, or whoever said, we're not going to switch, show them all the doors. And I had enough strength and enough, I was like Lawrence of Arabia with my own company, right? I said, okay guys, come on, we're going to do the engineering, because I was still doing engineering. You know why? Because they were always short of engineers. Okay? And because I was a professor, I could take fresh grads from college and do the chip design. And after the first design, they were on their own. So the engineering VP who was, with me, he used to constantly come, and I'm now at the, kind of general level, right? I'm not operationally running. He says, Suhas, we've got one more project. You're gonna, please do it. And, I'll give you some new guys, okay? Because everybody else is busy. So the thing is, we could have, now it's a hindsight. Hindsight is wonderful, 2020. But when I look at it, it would have been quite a task. So in life of a company, to make it successful, long term, you need the culture, you need solid thing, and you need to kind of handle some of these critical times with correct decision, okay? Which you can arrive if you like call meeting and say we got a problem. Let's talk about it. Let's review it, study it, come up with a solution. And I think you can navigate through it. Okay, and now of course after that the news later on, new CEO came who wanted to live in Austin, Texas. Okay? And the board said, okay, he's the best guy. So, but then he chose to live in Austin, Texas. Well, you know how hard the disk chip business is, or graphics business. You really got to be right very close, otherwise you can't win. So over time, the company lost the graphics business and the disk drive business because it's too hard to do it from Austin, Texas. You got to be in Silicon Valley because the industry is too intense, too fast moving. You got to be in touch with the people and do all. So anyway, but the interesting thing is, then they built the business starting from mixed signal analog and the audio and all the other stuff, which they were already very good at. And to their credit, well, the company is still around, okay? And it is a $1 billion company again, built more slowly, so it means it's more stable than we would just like rocket it to $1 billion, which has its own inherent risk when you grow that fast. So I'm very happy the company is still there and making contribution, and now I'm retired, and I've been retired out of the company for a good 6 years, so I know nothing. That's privileged information, and I make a point of not calling and finding out because I don't have to have the burden of a public company insider knowledge, okay? Even by mistake, okay? So that we're very lucky in the sense that we've gone through a lot of those changes that took place. I was part of it. Happy to be a part of that. Okay? That's it.
There's one thing that I would like everyone to know, that I don't have the count, I used to have it. Suhas has funded and supported more companies than most of us would come across in our lifetime. And there are so many entrepreneurs, countless entrepreneurs all over the world who have benefited from mentoring by Suhas Patil. So we're grateful for your being here, Suhas.
Thank you, Suhas, and thank you, Suren. Suhas, it's been an honor. You came all the way from Silicon Valley with one request, a personal request from me, and you came all the way here to address us and tell your story. I think there were quite a few key takeaways, I think, that were so important, at least from where I see it. Number one is, I think what you really emphasize is intellectual honesty. Value creation, meaning what value you create. When I was at IBM, respect for individual, all those things were there. But I think some base layers that you created are very important in formation of the company. The other thing that I learned is, I think you always have to have a customer fund your company. I think that's the best way, because what I've heard from you in a private conversation, the VCs are money managers.
Good money management, but nevertheless they have to make money.
Right. So anyways, but I think the lessons learned are, and also I think on your way you saw how you scale the company. And while scaling the company, I think if someone does not believe, though they are a star performer, does not believe in your value system, I think it's best thing for them to move on. I think that's something that at least I take away from this. And back in those days, creating such a mammoth, I remember Cirrus Logic from my days when I was doing chip design, that they were a mammoth company. I mean, it was they were really, very formidable company. And what Cirrus Logic did had a lot of IPs. Doing system on chip is not easy. So I think what you did is very tough, and taking it from a university lab. So thank you so much, Suhas. It's been a great pleasure, and I hope we get to see you more.